What if I told you that stealing a video game could save it? That downloading a cracked copy of an old game wasn't just petty theft, but an act of preservation, protest, or maybe just the only way to play something that's been wiped off the face of the internet. Piracy has been called a crime, a plague, even the death of creativity, but in the world of video games, it's not always that simple. So let's talk about piracy and why in some cases it might be the best thing that ever happened to gaming. Today, we are diving in the dark waters of piracy, not the kind with eye patches and parrots, though if you want to cosplay as Guybrush Threepwood while torrenting Age of Empires 2, I'm not here to stop you. We are talking about video games piracy, downloading cracked games, bypassing DRM, and getting your hands on software without paying for it. It's illegal, often frowned upon, but also surprisingly complicated. Because piracy isn't always about being cheap, sometimes it's about being locked out, sometimes it's about fighting a system that treats players like suspects, and sometimes it's about accessing a game no one sold in 15 years. So let's break it down. The good, the bad, the data, and the big question. Is piracy a threat to gaming or a necessary evil that's keeping it alive? But let's start where most conversations about piracy begin, with the bad. Yes, piracy is illegal. It violates copyright laws. Downloading a game you didn't pay for is by definition unauthorized reproduction and distribution. For big publishers like AI or Activision, a few pirated copies won't make a dent, but for indie developers, those downloads can really hurt. A small studio selling $15 game isn't swimming in cash. They rely on actual sales to survive. And if people pirate their game instead of buying, that might mean the difference between continuing development and shutting down completely. Now, there's also the question of visibility. Steam's algorithm favors games that sells, not games that are downloaded from a shady forum. If your game is being pirated instead of purchased, you don't climb the charts, you disappear. And piracy isn't always victimless. Piracy sites are often stuffed with malware, crypto miners, fake installers, or pop-ups that makes you question the entire human species. Sometimes pirates install Trojans, sometimes they affect their own computers, and sometimes they blame the developers for problems in cracked versions that were never supposed to exist. So no, it's not always a novel rebellion, sometimes it's just a mess. Now, here is where it gets interesting. In 2013, the European Commission funded a huge study to find out how piracy was affecting the entertainment industry. They studied books, movies, music, and of course, games. And when they saw the results, they didn't publish them. It took a Freedom of Information request years later to reveal what this study actually said. So, what did they find? For games, the estimated displacement rate is 0, which means that game piracy didn't hurt sales. People who pirated games weren't going to buy them in the first place, and some went on to buy them after pirating. This lines up with what some developers have been saying for years. For example, CD Projekt, the studio behind The Witcher, said, "We don't see piracy as lost sales. It's a chance to interact with someone who might become a paying customer later." And they proved it. They launched GOG.com, a DRM-free store, and The Witcher 3 sold over 15 million copies. And here's something Western publishers often forget. In many parts of the world, games are widely expensive. In countries like Brazil, India, or the Philippines, a $16 game can cost as much as a full week's salary. Add in region locks, missing storefronts, or credit card restrictions, and sometimes even if you want to buy the game, you just can't. So what do people do? They pirate, not out of greed, out of just necessity. And those same players, they often become super fans. They buy sequels, they promote the games, they join the communities. Now, their first experience might be illegal, but their loyalty, that's real. Publishers could fix this with a better pricing, regional discounts, or global access. But instead, they fight piracy with more DRM. DRM is Digital Rights Management, a fancy way of saying we don't trust you. Let's talk about Denuvo. It's a DRM software that's been accused of slowing down games, increasing CPU usage, and breaking performance on legit copies. When Resident Evil Village came out, the version with the Nubo had a horrible stuttering. Pirates removed it and suddenly it ran perfectly. We're talking that the cracked version was better than the one people paid for. And this isn't rare, it happens all the time. Sometimes players say, I paid for the game and then I pirated, so I could actually play it. That's not good look for the industry. Now let's switch gears. Let's talk about preservation. The gaming industry is terrible at preserving its own history. Old games vanish from storefronts, PC titles become unplayable on new hardware, license expires, rights get tangled, and sometimes publishers just stop caring. But you know who doesn't forget? Pirates. There are entire communities dedicated to cracking, preserving, modding, and archiving old games that would otherwise be lost forever. Try Battle for Middle-earth, No One Lives Forever, or The Simpsons Hit and Run in 2025. You can. They delisted, license locked, or abandoned. But if you know where to look, you can still play them, thanks to the fans. Piracy, in this case, becomes a form of cultural preservation. It's not about theft, it's about memory. Now, sometimes piracy isn't about preservation, sometimes it's about protest. In 2008, AI released Spore with a brutal DRM, limited installs, online checks, annoying restrictions basically, and players revolt, and Spore became the most pirated game of the year. Not because it was amazing, but because people refused to be treated like criminals. The backlash was so huge, it forced a wider conversation about DRM, ownership, and consumer rights. Piracy, in this case, was a middle finger to bad business practice, and it worked. Sometimes it's the only thing that makes publishers listen. So, is piracy good? Well, not always. It can hurt small developers. It's messy, can be risky, and it's legally questionable. But it is also a symptom of gaming industry that too often overprices, underdelivers, locks content behind the RAM, and forgets its own history. Piracy preserves games, it challenges bad models, it helps people access games that they legitimately want to play. So, no, it's not always right, but sometimes it's understandable, and sometimes it's necessary, and sometimes it's the only reason a great game doesn't vanish forever. Now, of course, play responsibly and support what you love. And for the love of God, don't download Call of Duty from a Russian blogspot. It's not COD, it's ransomware. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time, random internet brother.